Hey everyone, second video of the day. This one will be a little bit shorter. This one's more just about Sleeper, just to give a bit of customization to you, your teams, etc. I don't have this ability to do this on the phone app, which I know most of you will use, but the settings are pretty transferable, so you should be able to um, navigate, find these easier. It will look slightly different, but not massively different. And I'll try and talk you through where you can find these on the phone as we do it as well. Um, so what I'm going to do is just share my screen quickly. There we go. So um, what we've got here is Sleeper. This is Sleeper on the web. Slightly different, looks slightly different, but it's just really more windows, etc. So what you can see is all your teams here. You notice that a couple of people have already found how to customize icons, which is great. A few of you have already found how to change your team names, as you can sort of see here, which is great. Like the reason I picked Sleeper is because it's probably the easiest to use app. It's probably the most user friendly. It's got quite a nice draft interface, and just from feedback of playing with several hundred people every year, the feedback is this is the easiest thing to use in terms of app. No app is perfect. There will be some things that might be missing that if you've ever played before, you might be used to. But on the whole, this should be pretty easy to get used to and use. So to start customizing, there's on your mobile app, there's a settings tab that you can access and get into. It's going to look like a wheel or a cog. In here, it's some lines and bars, but effectively it's the same thing. So in your team settings, this is where you can create uh, an avatar or picture, and you'll also be able to change your team name. I don't have a team in this, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But you should be able to find that under. It says team settings on here, but in your list, it should be my team. Now, for those of you that might want to know the scorings, I kind of went through it all on the first video in terms of like its standard 1 point PPR. Scoring settings is where you can find, or it's just called scoring in the app. You'll be able to go through and find that. So literally, it will just tell you how much everything is worth. I'm going to go through this in more detail at a later date. Probably not something you need to be overly worried about right now, and kind of what all of this means. But if you have played before, like for a year or so, this is what the scoring is. It's a standard format, standard template in scoring. Probably what a lot of your friends who play fantasy football will be used to. The only difference is some people play what's called standard, which is just no catches for reception. This is a standard 1 point PPR, which is a wide receiver catching the ball gets 1 additional point onto their score. No random bonuses, things like that. We can talk about and amend this. This is why I use Sleeper. You can kind of customize and amend the scoring. If people want to do something with the scoring, we can get into that and go through that. But at this stage, not something you need to be too worried about at this stage. Other things you can look at are sort of general settings, and the general settings under here will just give you some information in terms of what type of league this is, how many teams. There's things like waiver order. I'm going to go through that in a different video again later on in the year. And explain all of those processes because they do need a little bit of explanation, but all of that is in there. But really, I just wanted to get you onto your team and being able to edit your picture and your team name should you wish. The scoring is in here, but everything is transparent in Sleeper. That's the good thing about it, is it's very easy to find all of this. So once you find the settings bar, it's pretty easy to find. You can find also the other members in here, etc. Other things you might want to know about Sleeper is, once we get out of this, is you can actually see all of the teams in the app. In the app itself, you can actually click on these and it will take you to their roster. And when you go to their roster, it will start to tell you a little bit about their particular team, tell you who they've drafted, who's in their team, who they might be starting each week. You can also have the opportunity on their screen to message them, and you'll be able to actually type them a message which will appear in their direct messages here. This might be for things like trades or just general hello banter. You want to take a conversation away from the group chat and have a private conversation. This is a way to vehicle-ize and do that. It will also have on there a transactions button, and this will go through their history of transactions, who they've dropped, who they've added, etc. If you want to go into that, there'll also be the opportunity once the teams have rosters to trade. So the third icon, which you won't see now, is a trade icon. The reason I'm not on these right now is they're not in the app. On the website, they're a little bit. You get this kind of thing, and it gives you the friend message and block, which isn't helpful. But on the app itself, it's a little bit easier to go in and look at all of the teams. So you've got a message button, a transaction button, and then eventually, once you've done the draft, there'll be a trade button, and this is where you would go to trade. If you want to look at players available, really simple, available, and this will have all the players that are available in the NFL right now. This doesn't have any of the rookies going into 2021 because they haven't been drafted yet. So once they're drafted, they then get added to the pool. They might do a sleeper update just before the draft, but typically they'll wait until people start doing drafts, which will be around May, to start including them in this data. What you'll see from here is an ADP. This is just sort of average data. So ADP stands for average draft position. So this is people that might have been conducting drafts already, mock drafts, things like that. This is where the current players are designed to go. So think of this right now as a projection of where they're likely to be taken. Big mistake is to actually just follow the IDP or the ADP. You'll just get yourself into a lot of trouble by doing that. Draft too many positions that you don't need and miss out some value, but we'll get into that later on. But that's a useful tip in there. If you want to see any previous stats, you can click on any player and you can look at their stats. This looks really complicated. Ultimately, the only ones you really need to care about are their projected, what they were projected to get, and then what they actually achieved on a game-by-game basis last year. And you can look at the history. Also on here, you can see where they finished last year. You have different scoring methods here. So you've got running back, it's RB, standard, which is standard scoring, that's without the PPR. And then we've got the points with PPR. So Alvin Kamara was second without points per reception, but he was first in points for reception. So it is slightly different, and that's why the scoring is important to know. But again, we'll worry about that later on. You'll see where he came overall amongst all players. You'll notice here it's 13. That doesn't mean you automatically draft the player who got the highest amount of points first, because more often than that, they're quarterbacks, and we'll get into some strategy later on in the season. So, but you see he was fourth in overall PPR as well. And then you can see how many people rostered him and how many people started him, how many played, and age, and all this other profile information. So it's a good way to learn players and understand a little bit about what they do. And then Sleeper have this really cool thing called trending players. In the season, these numbers are a lot bigger. They're in the tens of thousands. So you're actually being able to see who fantasy players are picking up and dropping on a regular basis. So this is a really good way of trying to find a player that people might be really in on. So you'll be able to pick up anybody on here. You see some people have been picking up, like Scotty Miller or Bryson Hopkins, for example. And people have been dropping Frank Gore, Drew Brees, probably because Drew Brees is likely to retire, etc. And Phil Rivers has retired, so we can see that people have been dropping him. So yeah, these numbers go into the tens of thousands when we're in regular season, even hundreds of thousands. So it's a good place in trending just to see what other fantasy players across the platform are doing. I think that's really about it. This, again, really basic video, nothing too complicated here, and I'm here to help with any questions on this. But if you want to change your team name, if you want to change your avatar, that's how you do it. And then you just interact in here in the group chat, and there's emojis, there's gifts you can send, there's all sorts. There's this pin message. I'm going to pin this welcome video into this and then I'm also going to pin this video when I load it in. So just watch these videos and enjoy them. Any questions, get in touch with me. You can even send me a private message. You'll see my when you go onto my username here, you can click that and you can send me a private message if you want to take it offline, or use Messenger. That's another way to get hold of me. But yeah, I hope you have found this useful. Again, I know this is really early, but really all I'm trying to do here is just create a good league, and it takes time to get to know people. And again, the more active you are, the better the league it will be. So I hope you enjoy the videos. I know it's early, and yeah, this will be the last one for me for a while, but do interact and do keep chatting. All right, take it easy.